What do you need to be healthy? That was the question that I heard God ask me in my head as I was sitting across the conference table staring at Chris, trying to decide what to say. How do I help this defeated 14-year-old who in a fit of rage had tore up an entire classroom that led to a stapler flying across the room and hitting his teacher in the face? You see, Chris was on his 12th living environment since being placed in foster care at the age of 6 due to domestic violence and extreme abuse. And here we were, 10 highly qualified professionals from every field, sitting around the table, and we couldn't even get Chris to lift his head and talk to us. I knew the stakes were high. My experience had shown me that when teenagers in foster care lose their placement in a behavioral school, it almost always leads to another living environment, a detention center. And Chris had already spent the last 2 years of his life locked in these facilities, baby jails, as my kids call them. And the answers around what he needed to be healthy were not getting answered in those places. How could I be okay with that? Hi, I'm Katie. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Found Village. And at 15, I found myself in a detention center. My parents put me in state's custody because they believed that that would get me the help that I needed. You see, I was running away, I was hanging with the wrong people, and doing some other things that we're not gonna talk about today. Looking back, I can see that I was angry. I was asking for help, I was asking to be seen, but I didn't have the words. Only thing I knew was to show it through my behaviors. And most adults, like my parents, don't understand the language of behavior, and they definitely don't know how to interpret it well. And as a result, I ended up in a detention center. And I remember when I walked into the doors of that place, I remember what it felt like still. I was surrounded by young girls who were all my age, and just like me, they were feeling sadness, anger, and all kinds of emotions. But the thing was, is that we were smart enough to understand that we had to work the program, and we had to follow the rules because we wanted to get out of that place. And so we did. We took the medication, we engaged in all the programs, we went to the therapy, we sat in on the multiple groups, even though most of them ended in a restraint with us on the ground or someone fighting and crying. And as time went on and I got to know the girls, I learned their stories, that they were in foster care and they had been in there for many years. And they had experienced similar things, abuse and neglect and sexual violence, and had bounced around from foster homes to group homes to relatives and now to detention centers. And what was so confusing to me at the time when I look back at that was that all of these terrible things that happened to them happened at the hands of the adults who should have cared and protected them. But yet, here they were, locked away, isolated, separated from anything that brought them joy or any level of normalcy, and truly believing that something was wrong with them. I was able to get out of that place. I had a grandmother who stepped in and paid to send me to boarding school. I was lucky. I had people, I had family, I had a village. And even though my parents weren't perfect, they stuck with me and they gave me what I needed. But so many young people don't have that, like Chris. Their village, it isn't handed to them. It must be found. I'm gonna stand up now. I think I got it together. That's why they gave me the chair. Sitting across the table from Chris, I asked him to look up at me. And when he did, I asked him that question. What do you need to be healthy? He stared back at me for what must have been a minute, and then said back, Miss Katie, I have no idea. And then he dropped his head back down. But that is where I heard that question again. But this time, God so clearly directed it to me. Katie, what do you need to be healthy? I sat there for the rest of the meeting totally zoned out, answering that question in my head. And things like workout, time with friends, a break to eat lunch, some fun, more purpose in my work, and definitely less meetings like this. were the things that came to mind. I had had enough. The next day, I went into our high school and I interviewed our 10 young people who were experiencing foster care and had a ton of challenges in our school. And I pulled them one by one from their classroom and I asked them that question, but I got specific. What'd you eat today? Tell me how you slept last night. What do you do for fun? Who are your friends? What is your hope for your future? And across the board, they had similar answers that can be summed up like this. I live in a group home and go to school here. Your food sucks and makes my stomach hurt. I had flaming hot Cheetos for breakfast and lunch. Friends, the kids here are all bad. Fun, I go to a behavioral school. There's no extracurricular activities or sports. And hope for the future, I got a lot of blank stares. So I decided to take this really high quality research back to my leadership team and our community partners, and I proposed my theory that these kids need more of the basic things that you or I need to thrive, and that we are not going to be able to build a better behavior plan, add in more medication, or more services to work our way out of these challenges. But if we could address their core needs and provide support around their mind, body, and spirit, that one of the results would be that their behavior in school would really improve. And most importantly, their hope for the future would really change. I got a yes, and the work began. We immediately started building deeper relationships in and out of school. 2 days a week, partnering with the local mixed martial arts gym to not only give our kids an outlet, but a place where the trainers became mentors. We partnered with the local church that had an amazing high school ministry program. They just did fun well, they did experiences. Our kids got to build friendships across the city, and they got to be surrounded by adults that actually wanted to be in their life and weren't paid to do so. Yeah. And we saw how simple it was to meet small needs, like getting them an MP3 player so they could listen to music at night and actually sleep, or buying a lockbox so they would leave the group home after school knowing their things were safely stored away, and advocating at school so that they could change the meals they'd actually begin eating, like peanut butter and jellies, salads, and sandwiches. So simple. But as we began to meet these basic needs, we started to talk about other things like education and internships and connected them to those opportunities. It was pretty incredible what was happening. Literally, weeks I saw changes in the kids. By month 2, noticeable behavior improvement, and I had good data to prove it. And 5 months later, at the end of the school year, we saw transformational change in really individual ways. Kids coming to school for those that rarely did, stopping suspensions, using us as an outlet instead of the constant visits to the psychiatric hospital. And the aggressive behavior that we saw daily, it almost disappeared. So, a year from that pilot program and another successful meeting, Found Village became an established community. We have got to welcome in hundreds of kids. We've got to expand to serve girls, and we've committed our support to at least 25. Because we are their people, we are their Found Village. And we continue to see transformational change, transitioning dozens of kids from those behavioral schools to traditional schools, stopping the incarcerations and the hospitalizations, and supporting 90% of our young people in graduating high school, and those that haven't, still with us pursuing that goal. But what is most important to us is that they have a sense of belonging. They have the power and autonomy and the vision for their future to create a pathway out of poverty. You see, we model our village of that of a thriving family. We work through relationships, we establish trust, and we use our influence to make sure that our community can come together to provide the right resources, support, and needed services and the way that they want to receive them so that they can thrive. And we journey with them through the ups and downs. Oh yes, there's lots of ups and downs. But they know that no matter what, we have their back. Chris will be 22 next month, and we have got to support him as he graduated from high school, as he explored and completed a post-secondary program, as he bought and insured a car, as he emancipated from foster care and moved into his first apartment. and got to walk with him as he repaired dozens of relationships and sat with him as he mourned the death of his mother and tons of friends. But now we get to experience the real joy that Chris has as he's experiencing love with his longtime girlfriend. You see, Chris has a vision for his future, to build a foundation for his family, and wants to give his shoulders to stand on. And he lets us know, too, quite regularly, that he will be the first in our community to transition his role to a paid coach. He will be the first in his family to mobilize out of poverty and provide his shoulders to stand on for the generations to come. The cycle is stopping with him. No more system involvement for him or his generations. And at 21, yes, he is still transitioning to adulthood, but he has a belief in himself, he has found his village, and he will succeed. Our hope is that more young people get access to this kind of support during their adolescent and young adult years, and that our communities come together to give our shoulders to stand on. And we are already seeing this happen in Cincinnati, Ohio. We have amazing individuals, community partners, and system leaders who share this vision. But as we know, transformational work is hard, and we still have a lot of work to do. And I believe that we each have a way to contribute, so I invite you today to consider what that might look like for you, and to join us in strengthening our village.